Hi, and welcome. I'm Denise M. Simpson, the Courageous Heart Coach, and I'm here to read to you from my chapter in the #1 Amazon best-selling book, Inspired Living: Superpowers for Health, Relationships, and Business. And it hit #1 in more than one category, so that's pretty exciting. As the Courageous Heart Coach, I help women with empowerment, with clarity, with using the courage in their heart to take action to build confidence and live an easier, more successful life so that they're just happier, there's more love and more fun. My two signature programs are Courageous Heart Living and Courageous Heart Writing, so you can write your story and express who you truly are. Another area of inspiration for me and expertise is working with the inner voices of the mind, voice dialogue. And I've come to that after being trained in evolutionary mystic meditation, which you will hear about in my chapter 25, Making Friends with the Dark Night of the Soul, Discovering Inner Voices to Transform Depression. Some of the common inner voices that you might be familiar with are the inner critic, perfectionism, procrastination, judgment, or self-sabotage. So I want to give a shout out to Carolyn McGee. She is the author who compiled 25 writers to become authors in this book. It's a wealth of information, inspiring stories, and tools for you to do some transformation of your mind, body, heart, and spirit. So I invite you to get comfortable now. You may want to grab a journal and pen because I will give you the tool at the end of my chapter. And if you have any aha moments as I read, feel free to jot those down. So let's get started. There are times in life when we're challenged to define or redefine who we are, wondering, what is my purpose? Is this the life I'm supposed to be living? And what is my place in the world? The period of transition is commonly called a midlife crisis, but it can occur at key transformational points throughout lifespan development: adolescence, early adulthood, middle age, older age, and very old age. You can recognize these points when you become stuck, feel stagnant, or bored with life. Is this all there is? There has to be more to life. Rattles through your brain in the wee hours of the night as you toss and turn. For men and women, hormonal changes have an effect on midlife and menopause. It's difficult feeling lonely, sad, or isolated in the midst of a family gathering, work, team, or social event. What's even more difficult is when life feels heavy, dark, pointless, and the connection to spirit is lost. Emotionally, you may feel powerless watching your parents age and die. Marriages, births, divorces, and deaths cause strain between siblings, creating, quote, forming, storming, norming, and performing, unquote, group dynamics as role shifts. As a spiritual seeker, you may be on your path. You are reading this book. Others may not consciously choose to awaken. He needs therapy, may be true, but you can't force people to change. And it's exhausting trying to control others. I learned a lot about the controller and other voices over the last 7 years as an advanced certified facilitator of evolutionary mystic meditation. Interacting with others means that we share our opinions, feelings, food, or help. When others reject your offer coming from your heart, it impacts your ability to feel safe and vulnerable. So you choose to shut down or withdraw. You may stifle your giving, laughter, and joy. Your ability to feel fully freely and authentically. Rejection leaves wounds in your tender heart. The wounded self takes on all the pain and suppresses it so that the self can function. Wow, that's a lot. And healing is so scary because, like Pandora's box, it can feel overwhelming to crack the lid on what may be repressed. It's dark in there, but it also takes tremendous psychic and physical energy to keep all the negativity locked up. This becomes heavy emotional baggage. Decades later, it shows up as pain and illness. It definitely can rob you of feeling playful, free, and flowing. We depress within ourselves that which truly longs to be expressed. It's a harsh trade-off that leads to physiological changes in the brain's electrochemistry, so the body doesn't operate optimally based on the emotions and thoughts. On the path to maturity throughout life, transformational stages are supposed to happen. Unfortunately, most of us are ill-equipped to breathe, reflect, release the emotions, and gain peace and strength from them. Western medicine relies on science and drugs to diagnose and medicate sleepless nights, anxious feelings, and weight fluctuations. With a major depressive disorder or other comorbid factors, prescription drugs may be warranted for safety's sake. And selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, can work wonders to jumpstart the neurons firing so that self-care actions are doable. Life is meant to be action, not stagnation. Most often, though, instead of exploring the root causes of the angst, there is suppression or denial, which is longing to be acknowledged, honored, and evolved into maturity. To cope with these dark feelings, many people turn to what they were taught growing up. Addictions or distractions like alcohol, food, shopping, sex, gambling, gaming, chocolate, television, or social media. Emotions can be addicting also, like anger, belittling, humor to cover up serious issues, or dysfunctional power dynamics of abuse. A person who feels insecure with a weak ego may bully others so that he feels better, but the boost to his self-esteem may not last. After the event comes a backlash of shame, or worse, a strengthening of the enforcer. That's a voice that is my way or the highway. Contrast these approaches with Eastern, Native, and other cultures which have practiced rituals for centuries to guide the person with reverence and sacred curiosity. Feeling uncertain, adrift, and unsettled is what the dark night of the soul is all about. Rituals are used to explore, reflect, and navigate the hero's journey from darkness to light. Life transitions are addressed with sacred tools like meditation, journaling, hypnosis, sound healing, drumming, dancing, chanting, breathwork, yoga, ho'oponopono, or a myriad of other practices. The wisdom of the elders, the divine feminine, or universal truths guide the seeker. The premise is that this too will pass, and it will. There is hope beyond taking a pill. Finally, science is catching up to the universal truths of what is truly possible in the mind-body. And now the body, mind, heart, and soul connections. We are in the fourth wave of energy psychology, and it's evidence-based. Phew, what a relief this is happening. What helped me the most and saved my life was learning and becoming certified in the emotional freedom technique, and then evolutionary mystic meditation, incorporating tapping. That's using the acupressure points to calm down the fight or flight response in the body. To heal from trauma, I learned to trust the safe presence of my coaches. I began to notice body sensations of temperature, pressure, weight, and constriction. Sensations create thoughts, which our minds interpret as emotions. Developing the skill of identifying emotions instead of thinking concepts that masquerade as emotions was a revelation. And it is a key component of the coaching I do with clients. Dropping from overwhelming, spinning thoughts in my mind into my body sounds simple, but this was new to me. The mind is full of stories and illusions that appear true, but aren't. Next, I learned to harness courage in my heart to actually feel all my emotions, to process, release, and integrate new perspectives, and to become whole again. Identifying emotional patterns is another key. Gaining freedom to be non-reactive yet engaged. The witness is a divine gift. This is a state of true power with the ability to hold your centered awareness with compassion for the other and yourself. Detached observation is a state where there is no need to be swayed by another's opinion. Releasing the need to force your will on another is a skill worth developing. Before I learned this, I suffered because I held back and squashed down my energy, needs, and desires in my family, work, money, and relationships. Everyone came first. And there was the judgment of being selfish if I made a choice for myself. The judge fears external viewpoints. It is a powerful cast member of the dark night of the soul. My judge has the ability to stop me in my tracks from taking action, hindering my goal accomplishment. Can you identify your judge or any of these other voices? With enough suppression of our energy, depression changes the brain's electrochemistry and neuron structures. Tapping is a mind-body energy tool proven to decrease cortisol and norepinephrine and increase the feel-good hormones of endorphins, dopamine, and oxytocin. And tapping is a natural, self-administered, and has no chemical side effects like pharmaceuticals. By driving down cortisol levels, the body's fight or flight system of being hypervigilant and flooded with adrenaline lessens or stops. The nervous jitters relax so that the body feels lighter, calmer, and the mind more peaceful. Sleep improves, and tapping helps to regulate weight because cortisol interferes with digestion. I lost 40 pounds in 1 year without focusing on diets because I was focused on healing. Letting go of my emotional baggage, I became lighter as I freed myself from negative traumatic memories. The dark night of the soul happens, and it will happen as we cycle through life. But it doesn't have to be a painful struggle. Once you learn today's energy psychology tools to address underlying root causes and heal trauma. When you know the truth of your soul qualities and life mission, you become the conductor directing the instruments of your knowledge, time, focus, communication, boundaries, and love within your life creating harmony in all realms, body, heart, mind, and soul. My story. Do you ever feel like there is a rule book for living handed out at birth, but that somehow you didn't receive it? I felt that way often, feeling awkward and unsure. And when I did express what I most wanted or thought, it was often met with my parents' responses of, "No, you don't. Do it this way. Don't be a teacher, therapist, or writer. You won't make any money. Go into business instead." It's been a lifelong pattern of having to battle to prove myself. Once I achieved my goal, I received an acknowledgement of, "You did it. I couldn't have done that." As a highly sensitive child, I was awkward in my body, and my logic-focused dad reprimanded me repeatedly to get your head out of the clouds. Teasing and my sister beating me up were common, something my father thought was funny until he was dying, and when I angrily spoke the truth of how he supported her bullying me, "Builds character," was his response, still not comprehending the damage inflicted. It hurt, and I suppressed the hurt over and over because expressing anger was not allowed. I could never win, and that contributes to the voice of the victim. To be safe and belong in my family of origin, I learned to be the good girl, the helper, and the smart one. Books became my refuge from the chaotic noise of 3 siblings in a small house. Family holidays included 18 relatives, and sometimes it was too much sensory overload. I would suddenly get sick with a respiratory illness and have to stay home instead of attending the fun but noisy family holiday gathering. My Christmas presents would be delivered later, with a rush of cold, wintry air disturbing my cocoon of warmth and quiet on the living room couch. Since high school, I've been interested in psychology and have spent a lifetime learning. I've also spent a lifetime with depression and then exuberance, discovering my gifts and how my energy system wants to work. Intuitively, I've known since high school that I needed to be away from home to grow and develop. Even before earning a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, while I was separating and getting divorced, I learned about enmeshed families, scapegoating, and learned helplessness with the Cinderella Complex book. There were many aha moments of discovery and, "Oh, that makes sense. That's why." There is no way out of gained awareness from within the family system. It doesn't work that way. Albert Einstein said, "The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them." This applies to ourselves, the family, the work unit, the community, or the world. During the dark night of the soul, our thinking calls us to become different. When my mom died in 2007, being the scapegoat was transferred to me. That's my story. But because I'm conscious of family systems and patterns, I fought to establish boundaries and not be persecuted this way. I was a spiritual warrior for transformation. A 16-year battle for survival ensued, and it's not the only battle to stay alive I have fought. It creates my courageous heart. For decades, I worked in corporate America, drifting from job to job when I was younger. Remember the people pleaser morphing into what anyone else wanted me to be or do. I settled into a training career at the world's largest pharmaceutical company, where I turned into a work addict, routinely working 60 hours a week. Like a hero, I saved projects under unrealistic deadlines, and I won global training awards. I trained thousands of employees in the US and abroad. The recognition fed my ego while draining my body. My crisis came from being switched to women bosses who were younger and less educated than I was. Harassment occurred until I quit in 2010 to move to a top 4 pharmaceutical company. That worked great until my old boss moved to a new company and my new boss started bullying me. A hit-and-run accident in January 2012, after my purse was stolen, was the breaking point. It was a day of tears and trauma. After landing on the hood of a car, being crucified like Jesus on the cross, I got the message: stop being a martyr. For the next 6 months, I worked despite back pain with my goal to save enough money to be able to quit. By June of 2012, I walked away from a 6-figure corporate salary. It was freedom. And then in July 2012, after a massive family argument, I stood in the bathroom with a pile of pills in my hand, ready to check out of life on this planet. What I was offering my family was being rejected. I had no purpose. The dark night of the soul is a breaking point. What stopped me from swallowing those pills on that beautiful, warm summer day was hearing a voice inside that said, "Denise, it's not your day to die. No one has power over you. Only you get to say whether you live or die, and it's not today." So what's my purpose then? I railed at God. Silence. "It's not your day to die," I heard. Sigh. I put the pills down and cried myself to sleep. 14 hours later, I awoke, challenging God. "Okay, so what's my purpose?" Silence. So I got myself out of bed, tapped, and lived that day. And I kept doing that for weeks until it was no longer a battle cry, but an inquiry. What's my purpose? Over the next year, I woke up, tapped, cried, wrote, gardened, and did not work at a job. My job was healing, including acupuncture, meditation, hypnosis, massage, essential oils, and Reiki. I learned about food as medicine and began juicing. The next year, I cleared out my medicine cabinet and discarded over-the-counter medications and even my asthma inhaler. I got certified in the emotional freedom technique and Reiki. I shared myself with a whole new group of people who became friends, healers, and soul sisters. That felt wonderful. I was sleeping better, waking up grateful to experience the joy of being alive. Woo, what a shift. Tapping cured me of the major depression I had been in for 7 years. The darkness, pain, disconnection, and isolation I experienced were the blackest of my life, but it's also been my greatest gift in that I came to know myself. The core of me, the soul within the physical body, the divine healer within. I'm grateful, and I'm still discovering and excavating the most precious core parts of myself. I'm convinced that having a purpose and social connection is what keeps one alive. During my dark night of the soul, I would listen to the wall clock, ticking away every second, bringing me closer to death. A scene like a macabre Edgar Allan Poe story. I finally pulled that damn clock off the wall. Time is a choice, and we never get it back. But I can choose to live actively now. I know what my purpose is, and that's coaching with love. And now I'm going to discuss the tools. So this is where you may want to have your pen and paper handy. Discover your dark night of the soul voices. The dark night of the soul is real, and so is the ability to transform. It's the calling of the soul for the human to evolve. Tapping boosts brain chemistry and changes neural patterns so that transformation is possible. Every person has a plethora of voices in their monkey mind. Work with the voices of the dark night of the soul to acknowledge the pain, honor the protective role the voice plays, discover when it was created, and dialogue with it so that it feels heard, seen, and loved. The voice will evolve from immaturity into skillful means. When the next dark night of the soul occurs, you will gain a greater ability to process, release, and change, making it shorter and less painful. Empowerment is the result. Keep yourself safe and work with a qualified coach if you need support. Common voices are the controller, the judge, invisibility, the wounded self, the people pleaser, the witness, the courageous heart is divine love, perfectionism, procrastination, the inner critic, and there's so many more. The tool. Here are 7 questions to work with these voices Here are 7 questions to work with these voices or your own voices of the mind. Instructions. Set aside some quiet time to explore your answers and journal with sacred curiosity. Question 1. Who is the voice? I am the voice of, fill in the blank, name the voice. Question 2. What is your job? Each voice has a job to do, what it controls, and when it comes to the forefront to guide or take over the self. Reflect on how it interacts with the self, others, and the world. Question 3. What are the risks the self faces? Question 4. How do you protect the self? Question 5. When were you created? Explore what was happening to the self as a younger child or person. Was there a danger, fear, trauma, or overwhelm? Question 6. How are you supporting the self today? And lastly, question 7. How could you support the self better? And that's my chapter on making friends with the dark night of the soul. Keep in mind that every voice inside your psyche was developed when the self felt overwhelmed or was struggling, and it's a coping mechanism. However, so many of these voices developed when we were little children, and they're now running us as adults. And this is why it's important to do this transformational coaching work to evolve and mature them so that your inner psyche and subconscious beliefs are in line with your adult goals for success, for love, for joy, for building businesses, for whatever your heart's desires are. So if you need support or you want a handout, reach out to me at Denise at DeniseMSimpson.com. So that's Denise at DeniseMSimpson.com. Or on Facebook, you can find me at Denise M. Simpson. I'm also on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter. So I hope you got some valuable information. I would love to hear your comments on using the tool and what insights and aha moments you get so that you make friends with your inner voices and have greater ease, flow, and success in your life. Thank you so much.